Hey, thanks for tuning back into Town Line Garage. Today we're replacing the hot water tank on this here RV. Hope you stick around. Well, it's about 9 o'clock on a Wednesday. We gotta go camping on Friday, so it's probably time we dig into this here. What we'll show you when we get on the inside is this tank has got some serious crackage. So, we got on the interwebs, ordered us a new one. A couple reasons why we're going with just a tank and not the whole heater. One being that don't want to spend that money. Two being that this is a 21-year-old unit, so full appliances are a little bit harder to find. This is an Atwood or Dometic 6-gallon tank. This should apply to most Atwood Dometic 6-gallon gas and electric water heaters out there. But I am not an RV technician. So it might work, it might not. Meaning cross-reference. So I have had this out before, so getting these out and in isn't a huge deal. I'm gonna take as many of these components off the outside rather than pull everything out and deal with this on the ground. So that's going to mean I'm going to zip these screws out from the tin. That's going to sit there just fine because there's a bunch of gooey tape behind there. And then I'm going to start picking some of these components off. Before I get started, I'm going to snap a couple pictures just to make sure I remember where stuff's at. Because, you know, stuff just kind of goes in one eyeball and out the other, it seems. So we'll get a couple pictures and we'll start zing-zanging these screws out and we'll get to it. Red, brown, so that should be easy enough to put back in. This guy goes in there one way. Hopefully it's not too crusty. That should come off altogether. This little feller here. Ooh, you little, let's see now. Before I started this, the camper is not plugged into the house. It's not plugged into 110. And my propane is shut off. There might be a little bit of hiss in the line coming out, but propane tanks are off. So I'm actually going to pull this board out anyway just to get it out of the way. You sneak in there. There we go. Good deal. Maybe. Nope. Yep. Alright. I probably should have pulled this line off first, but I'm going to hold this so it doesn't wiggle around and crack that off of there. Alright, there's our burner unit. In this case, this has got an electric ignition. That's what our digicals are hanging off of there. All the wires are clear. Let's set this guy down. Get that out of the way. We're going to take our sealant off of here. It's siliconed up. Save on that. We'll sneak our gas line through there. This, I'm going to pull our drain off of here. So it looks like we'd have a hard time clearing this pan off of that. The bugs are out now. That's nice. Alright, also going to pop that off of there. Maybe. Upgrade. Alrighty, so we're just about ready to pull this tin off. I'm going to pull the other tank out of the box and see what we got. See how much needs to be retained. And probably put some bug spray on. Alright, so doesn't look like we got these fellers. This stays with the tin. So I'm going to kind of sneak these out of here, if it'll let me. Yeah, because those push up against the tank. Set those down in the relationship they came off. Here's our new one we got here. You can see it's just, bare tank. Now this is for not exactly that model. The best, closest, nearest cross-reference that I could find. I do believe that this box here is going to have to be changed out to the one that's back on this unit. I think this one is a 12-volt switch, so the 12-volt relays, I think, control the high voltage. I think this one here has got two switches in the camper, so you got one switch for 110, one switch for the 12 volt, whereas this newer unit, I think they just ran everything off the 12 volt switch, and it just, if it didn't see that if you didn't have power, you didn't get 110. So that's my interpretation. Don't quote me on it, but I think I'm gonna have to pop this box off and duct tape the old one back on, or zip ties maybe, something nice. So back here, we're just going to come around the outside with our knife, utility knife at first, then we'll come through with a putty knife and kind of try and cut through some of that butyl puddle type rubber that's in there. It's super gooey, and it's not very old. I think last time I had this one out was 4 years ago maybe. I put this back panel, did some other repairs. So we kind of dig in here, the top, bottom, sides, full perimeter. Let's see what we can do. In this case, this is a This has got aluminum siding on it, so you want to be extra careful not to scratch the side of your coach. It won't be as visible if you scratch, you know, what would it be? Fiberglass, plastic. It still won't look good. It's just you're going to see it more if you scratch your paint. So if you wanted to, you could put down some masking tape or something on the outside. So I'm cut through my outer layer of caulking. It's this stuff here. So that's the caulk. And then underneath that will be some butyl rubber tape, which I hope I got more of. I forgot to check. But I'll probably be carried away by mosquitoes before we get that far. Of course, I prefer to work at night because that's when the bugs are the thickest. But, you know, you gotta do stuff when you got time. Blade here so I can do a little bit of prying and cutting at the same time. No matter what we do, we're going to end up bending this metal tin. But we do own hammers and boards and stuff. We can get it flattened back out, and then when we zip all those screws back in when we're done, that will kind of hold everything tight. Plus we'll put more of this ooey gooey tape in there, so I'm not too worried about it sealing back up. Just gonna try and not mutilate it too badly. Also, the bigger chunks of this can come off, the better, because we're gonna have to clean it all before we put any back on. Alright, we got that seal pretty much broken all around the outside. I'm still going to pull this out as one unit. This tin is held to the inner tank by these rings here. We'll end up cutting those off once we get it pulled out. But we're to the point where I need to go inside and make sure that this propane line is cleared. And then I'm going to get the rest of the wiring on the inside unhooked and the rest of our plumbing. Alright, so here's what we got going on inside the coach. We've got our lines into the hot water heater. This is the back side. Won't be a lot that we'll be able to see because it's tucked into this cabinet in the bathroom here. So we're gonna disconnect obviously the hot and the cold line. I'll stand on my head and wiggle my nose, and then I will also, in there somewhere, there's a couple wire nuts for the landline. I will get those disconnected, and at that point I'm going to be able to try and kind of slide it out of here. But it is going to be a pretty tight fit, so it's probably going to be some grunting and sweating kind of stuff going on, unless I just break this styrofoam into a million pieces. So I'm going to wrestle around in here with these fittings, and then we'll head back outside and push her out. Alright, so we do have our wires disconnected here. Pay attention to that routing. I'm going to have to make sure that there's a way to get them back up into this corner, because I'm sure there's not a bunch of extra wire. So we got that kind of floating around there. That's through this little pass through. We've already disconnected that end. And we're going to keep this tin on the new unit anyway. But you kind of see we working on snaking this out. We're going to get water everywhere, which hopefully mostly goes outside. Also, inside the new tank, they do give you these replacement rings, because we're going to have to cut those to get them off. And then we've got the, I guess what would that be, your high pressure emergency blow off, and a couple gaskets. Just getting caught up on the propane line there. More 12-volt lines in here. I guess that'd be No, that's 110. 110 and 12? 12 volt too? I don't know. We got more wires. In a metal box with wire nuts. Okay, so this will be 110. We got green to ground. We got white to white, black to black. Alright, so we got an old tank out here. We got some water everywhere. We're gonna get a pry bar and get tin snips in here to get these retaining rings off, and that should let us pull this tin off. I'll get some simple green and clean this tin up and ready to go on to the new one. Wherever I put that pry bar. Yep. Maybe we'll try some nippers. Oh no, come on. I'm just tearing little pieces off. That's not worth a darn either. There we go. Get off there, you. There's your tin. Sample fit on the new one. Cross your fingers, toes. Alright. Well, at least those line up. That's a good start. I did look at the cross reference, and it's supposed to be the same heating element. We do have the same color wires coming off of there, but I'm gonna dig into this box and just make sure things look kosher. We figured out what was different in the tanks. Like I said at the beginning, I did as much cross-referencing as I could to the different part numbers available, and I could not get this exact tank. But it seemed like a lot of the components between this model and this model overlapped, all the way down to some of the heating element. What I do know is that the this newer one has a different way of switching on 12 volt versus 110. So my plan was always to use all the old circuitry right back to this heating element here. So thankfully we do have the new heating element in the new tank, which is nice. But what you can see is, if you look at, I think these are about in the same spot, hot, cold, but you can see the offset. This guy is kind of right up, should be right up in here, and then the spread of these studs for this component here, there's supposed to be a hole here and a hole here, whereas these studs are this far apart. You can kind of see, here's the box that was on this one. I do believe that there is a way that I could get this wired up. I don't really want to mess with it. What I had worked except for the leak, so I'm just going to kind of toss that aside and keep with the old components. I went and found a little scrap sheet metal, pop some holes in it, and I'm going to use that to make this other piece work on the new tank. We got a fender washer on one side and my new homemade bracket on the other. So I'm gonna pop this in here, wire this stuff up, put the fittings on, and then I'm gonna cross my fingers and hope that this lower heating element does not interfere with anything inside the coach. If it does, I'm just gonna have to figure out what modifications to the cabinet, hoses, whatever needs to happen, because we've committed, this is what's gonna fit. I am surprised it's that far off, because I went all the way down to looking at these styrofoam part numbers, and these two styrofoam part numbers are supposed to be the same. Maybe from a service kit perspective they don't care, and these are just kind of a modification that's made. I don't know, but we're gonna make this one work. I still think it's going to. Most of the other fittings look good, but this is the main difference, is where the heating element is. And it is kind of cool that you order just a tank and you get heating element and some of the other components. The only thing that I did not see is a drain. So I will probably go to my local RV parts store and get a new drain, because the old one was pretty crusty. Other than that, I'm going to keep on trudging ahead, get this wiring set up, and get ready to push it into the coach. Get this back in. I've been working on getting this sticky butyl tape off of here. What I like to do is use a piece of the old stuff and kind of use that to work it out. You wear your fingers out, but you can kind of roll it off of the old material. Honestly, the older it is, I think some of the old stuff even comes out better. This is fairly new yet, so it's pretty pliable. So this will take me a little bit. I'll get this cleaned up and we'll try and fit it in here. Alright, we are nearing the end for this evening. I've got most of the electrical taken care of. I just got to the point of getting the fittings switched over from the old tank to the new. We've got PEX to NPT, and taking a look, the PEX 90 is cracked in multiple places, so I really don't want to put that in there, especially because where this goes in the coach is very tight, and I would not be able to get in with a wrench in any reasonable amount of time. I've got the RV cleaned up, and that's ready to put butyl tape on it. So if we would have had these fittings in here, I'd say we were probably about half hour from getting this wrapped up. But I'm going to go a little bit further tonight, then we'll get some sleep, go to work tomorrow, and pick up our parts and wrap up tomorrow night. So here's this guy. I think we got some new seals. Take a peek. Where's that bag? All parts. Here we go. Alright. Gaskets. That. Got extras. Extra parts are good. Maybe if we screw them up, they give you spares? I don't know. Put those there. So we've got some clean gaskets here for this stuff. Those look right, so I'm just going to pull this off. I don't know what the other ones are for. There's some other gaskets. Maybe it's for that other stuff. Maybe this guy, but this is gasketed on the outside. There's one with a larger opening, so I'm gonna put that one there. Before I put this on, I probably will get the butyl tape cleaned up on this side and then take it over to the bench and kind of, well, I don't even need to do that. You can just bend these flat by hand, eyeball it so it looks like, you know, it's kind of back to 90-ish. It's thin stuff. It's gonna kind of true itself back out to the outside of your coach when you put 500 screws back into it. But you don't want to get some of the butyl tape cleaned off. But that tape isn't too picky either. Pretty tolerant stuff. So yeah, I'm actually gonna hit this up with some simple green quick, get that butyl tape ready to go, and then we'll come back and pop that on there for good. Alright. So we got our tin all cleaned up. We got the foam gaskets on the back of these two fitting areas here. We don't get one here, that's where the gas line comes through. We got our gasket in place here. I did notice that these have some sharper edges on them. I have to come back with some sandpaper. but we're going to go ahead and give this a whirl as is. Just get this last gasket on here. I'm going to do what I can with just a cold chisel and punch. See if I can't walk these rings on. You can see it really got hung up on this corner here. I'm going to pop that back off and then come back and clean up this lip, if it'll let me. So I don't know if the camera's picking it up, but this one, I don't know if it's dented from manufacturing or what, but there's a big flat right here that I probably should have made sure I cleaned up this edge first. Also, this is just for hot air. Water does not go in here, so I'm not worried about getting any debris in this area. Not happy. Not happy. Alright, well, we're back. Day dose. Made a trip today to Maynard's. Got ourselves some new nipples. Could not find the fittings that I needed. So, we did the right thing and put some electrical tape on our plumbing. There's just some hairline cracks in here. There's a little gasket in here that's how the old one's sealed up. So we're just gonna hope for the best. I'm gonna dope everything up with some Blue Monster and put these fittings in there. I did get a new drain and anode. This could have been part of the issue originally. I don't think the drain was draining too well. She's pretty clogged up. So got this from the local RV store. Had American flag on it, so that's a good part anyway. I'm gonna put this stuff in here, and then I'll pop it back on when I'm sliding it in the coach here. Alright, so we're just getting things kind of shimmied in here. Got my wires tucked in as much as I can. I'm going to get this as far as I can. Don't know what that was. Hopefully get all the way back in, go back inside the coach, and make sure my water lines are looking good. And then my copper propane line coming through here. But overall, it's seeming to go pretty smooth. Alrighty, well, we got things pushed back in here. We still got the burner off, a couple wires to go back onto our thermostat here. It is a very tight fit. I'm pushing against some hoses that are on the inside. That's due to the box being just a little bit lower on the back side of this tank than the last unit. But we're just going to go ahead and drive around home. I'm going to just walk around. It's fitting pretty good along the bottom here. And we do have the water lines hooked up inside already. So we're going to zip the screws around the outside. Not forget the door hinge. And then we will put the burner back on. And then we'll start plugging these back in. And then we'll be checking for leaks to see what we got. Quick note on this beautiful rubber tape. If you own a camper, you should probably have some of this on hand. Make sure that you're careful not to stretch it out. This backing tape, so I would use the backing tape to hold it around a corner or through a longer stretch. Otherwise, you'll stretch it out. It's kind of like some warm Laffy Taffy, kind of that consistency. You don't want to stretch it too thin, or you're gonna lose your seal. It'll take. It's pretty tolerant stuff. It's sticky, and it recovers from a little bit of dirt, a little bit of handling. Going around the corners is easy, and trimming is easy. So if you're just going around the corner, you're able to kind of do a little bit of putty work, making sure you don't stretch it too far, maintain your consistency. It's really easy stuff to work with. I'll probably put a little bit extra, a bit of those corners. Afterwards, I'll come around and kind of trim any that's sticking out from the edge, and then I'll come back with some caulk and make that look nice. Anywho, we're gonna zip these screws on in here. Alright, we're moving right along. We got our screws around there. We got the burner back in. We got the propane hooked back up. We did a little spritz of soapy water on there, made sure we didn't have any bubbles after we turned the tank back on. I did go ahead and kind of trim off my butyl tape. Little quick trick on that. You can either come by with a plastic putty, or plastic putty knife if you're afraid of scratching the surface too bad, or if you've got a steady hand, you can come by and kind of score with the razor blade. And then kind of just work it up with your thumb. It'll peel back and you'll have a nice trimmed off edge. You want to make sure you got a good clamp back with your screw flange. And then, like I mentioned already, you're going to come by and caulk this around there for some extra insurance anyway. But at least this gets a nice straight edge that you can run your caulk gun around, and you can tool that and you won't have a bunch of this putty sticking up through your caulked seam. So we're gonna go inside and turn the water on, put our fuses back in, flip the breaker. Actually, we're not gonna flip the breaker. We are not plugged in right now, but we're just gonna test on the propane. So we only need 12 volt for that. We're gonna put our fuse back in and put some water in the tank and try and get this thing to fire up. Alright, we got our pump turned on, we got our water hooked up here, we got our bypass valve enabled. Gonna open these guys up, get some water in this tank, and check for leaks. Inlet, outlet, and we will shut off from this. up there. Hopefully not a lot of water coming out. I do see a little bit of a drip up there, which is great. So I might have to pop these fittings back off and get another little bit of a turn on that. But we're going to tuck a rag under there for now, so we can at least check the operation of the heater, and we'll go from there. Well, here we are. It's late. We got her fired up. She hasn't shut down yet. I'll start this back up again tomorrow. We're not going to watch it a little more closely and just make sure things shut down when they're supposed to. And then I will actually try the 110 version as well. We just got things plugged in right now. It's late. We got to work in the morning, but things seem to be okay. Again, utilize my snapshot to make sure my wire routing and such was in the right spot. So yeah, I still gotta caulk this, but we got a trip coming up. We're gonna kind of use this as she is. There might be a slight leak inside, but I think I'll need a new PEX fitting to get that fixed up. So we're gonna wrap it up for the night. Don't be afraid to go tackle something yourself. We got the old coach wrapped up for now. We'll do a little bit more testing on her, and you know, bring some rags and duct tape and stuff this weekend when we use the rig. But hey, seems to be working pretty good. We did end up using a different part number than this is supposed to have. Again, just because this is a 20-year-old camper, parts aren't available, we had to improvise a little bit. We'll zoom in on this here. What we got is the GC6AA-9E. Could not find, that is our model number. It's a 6-gallon unit from Atwood-Dometic. What we found is parts were available for the 10E. Took the 9E and put a tank in for a 10E. I wouldn't recommend doing this without taking a good look at your cabinet or your storage location in the RV that this is located in, because that control box on the bottom is in a different location. Fittings look pretty close to the same. Hey, as we're standing here, she shut down on her own, so that's good. Next up, I'll test out the 110 unit, and she should be in pretty good shape. I feel good that it shut off on its own. Tells me the thermostats are still working. A lot of that stuff is still available, bits and pieces. There's some good cross references available online. I don't like putting links in my descriptions for too much stuff, because so much stuff moves around. There's a lot of different part numbers out there. You just gotta do your own research on what your model number is. There's a lot of things that are put together similarly, but you want to make sure, if you're going to do some cross-referencing and some, you know, cobbling of your own, that you're comfortable with it. Don't be afraid. Go ahead and get out in the garage and get some things done. Appreciate you watching. Till next time, keep it between the ditches. Adios.